Hi there, I'm Rachel, otherwise known as Mac, and we are back again today with our series where we are building classic lots and households from the older Sims games in The Sims 4. Now, if you've watched any of my The Sims 4 High School Years Let's Play, you may have already seen the exterior of this house. This is a house from The Sims Bustin Out, which was a console game that I played over and over when I was younger, and it's Mimi Landgraab's house. So if you haven't played The Sims Bustin Out, Mimi and Dudley Landgraab were Malcolm Landgraab's children, and they were the step-brother and sister, or former step-brother and sister, of the playable character in The Sims Bustin Out, which obviously is a Sims game, so you make that character yourself. Now, from my memory of The Sims Bustin Out, the first level you live at your mum's house, and then the whole sort of element of the game is that you have to get a certain amount of promotions at work, and then there's certain challenges and tasks you have to complete, and then once you do that you can actually move out to another house. Now in The Sims Bustin Out, yes, you start at your mum's house, and then there's two sort of branches depending on what career path you take, and you can either move to Mimi's house or Dudley's house. So I think the reason why I have such vivid memories of these two houses is because I was quite young when the game was out, and I almost feel like I probably restarted it a lot, and I always absolutely loved moving into Mimi's house when I was younger, and I think it's because it was very sort of pink and purple, and it was almost like a sort of dream house for a little girl, I think. It just had really lovely furniture, it was really cute, I loved the colours, and it's funny because actually Mimi as a character, I can remember actually thinking she was quite mean, and it's almost like I didn't like living with her on the game, but I just loved living in the house, and I can remember always trying to sneak so that I got the bigger bedroom. So yeah, it was really, really fun to rebuild this. And again, I have mentioned on the channel before, I actually, for the first time since I started playing The Sims 4, I actually had a corruption with my save file, so this is actually the second time that I built this house, and as I'm recording this voiceover, I actually built this house probably a week or two ago, so as I'm watching it I might forget a few things that I did, but yeah, I'm really excited to see the process in which I did it. Now obviously whenever you do a build like this, the basic structure is already done. And for most of them, I've sort of changed the interior furnishing because obviously with The Sims 4, we have so many new items and elements that we can use that you can get a few more things in the build, I think. And obviously, like, as we play these games ourselves, like, you sort of know which items would be used, which wouldn't. And yeah, so a few things are a little bit different. But actually, I would say of all of the speed builds of these older houses I've done, I would say that this one is probably the most reflective of the older game. The main thing that's different about this rebuild is that I've actually given Mimi a garden at the back of the house. So in The Sims Bustin Out, this is just me going off my memory now, but I do recall that she had sort of a little patio out the back. But yeah, it almost wasn't sort of a enclosed garden. So that's what I decided to do this time. And I've given Mimi a hot tub. As I've mentioned before in a video, I am actually a console player and I don't have all of the packs, so I've used the controversial free hot tub. That's the only one I actually have in the game, so we'll get to that eventually. And for once in my life with this build, I think the roof came together really quickly. That doesn't normally happen with me. I would say that roofing on The Sims 4 is my biggest nemesis because I struggle so much, and quite often it takes me a few different goes. But I almost wonder, like, looking at it, it does look quite basic, so maybe because it was quite a simple build and it was on an older game, it sort of didn't need to look that sort of fancy, the roof, so maybe that's why it came to me so easily. And with this build, I actually did something that I never used to do, but I've started doing it lately and it's quite risky. I actually did the exterior first. Now I feel like anyone that plays The Sims probably knows that's not always a good idea, because when you're sort of furnishing a room, you might sort of get to go and do it and then go, oh no, I need one extra square to make it symmetrical, or, you know, oh, I can't quite fit everything I want in that room. So, or you might even go the other way and go, oh, this room looks too big for what's in it. But because I'd already built this house once, I sort of had an idea about the sizing of the rooms. So yeah, I was just so excited to recreate her little sort of patio area, the garden, that I actually end up doing that first. And yeah, so you can see I used the same windows all the way around. I use these ones quite a lot, and I do think this was one of the first builds that I actually did in terms of recording it for the channel. And so I think I actually sort of depended on a lot of the furniture that I use anyway. And I knew I wanted to sort of have a grand doorway and a double doors. So yeah, I don't know, looking at it now, I don't know how I feel about whether they match that much or not. But I do think it all comes together quite nicely in the end. And I do think it does look similar to the old game. So I'm happy with it. And yeah, it was really fun to do. And something I've been loving doing lately is this sort of, I always call it spray paint, but it's not, is it? It's terrain paint. I love doing the terrain paint on the floor. And I actually use that as a basis to mark out the outline of the back garden. And what I decided I wanted to do was I wanted to have this sort of bit sticking out of the patio where the hot tub would sit. So you can see here, I'm just sizing it up and just spraying around the area that I'm going to be needing. And yeah, so I keep it quite small, the area, but I think it's done really effectively, like I say, because we have that little sort of the bit that sticks out with the hot tub, and then there's sort of defined sections in the patio. So although it's small, I think we get a lot in there. And I also do the little trick where you put the plants down and then have the rocks around it. And again, that's something that I never really used to do, but when I have sort of a decent amount of time to build a house, I really like to take the time to do things like that, because I just think it makes it look so much more realistic. Because, you know, I feel like to some degree The Sims is obviously a life simulation game, but there's so many elements that obviously aren't realistic to real life that, I don't know, I just have this thing where I'm building the houses, I do want them to look like they are real houses. And just little elements like that, you know, with the flower beds, and, you know, even this now, sort of doing the dirt around the path, and, you know, making sure there's sort of flowers in places where they would be, and easy access to the garden, and, you know, the bins by the side of the house where they'll easily be wheeled out. You know, although that's not something we do on The Sims, I just think when you look at a house, like, yeah, it's nice to think it looks real. So yeah, you'll never really see any sort of futuristic or, like, I don't know, quirky builds from me, you know, unless it's sort of a challenge. It's not something that I would want in my actual gameplay. And yeah, so you can see I kept it quite simple out the front actually. I almost feel like on the actual on the Bustin out game, there wasn't that much out the front, and there wasn't I feel like there was just maybe a few sort of bushes sort of scattered around, but it wasn't so much a sort of, I don't know, like a sort of a shrubbery area. It was just sort of the odd one sort of placed everywhere. So again, that's not something you would have in real life. So I don't know, I just sort of wanted to make it sit sort of alongside the house as it probably would be. And yeah, I just put a couple going around to the doorway, and then I think I slot the mailbox in there somewhere. And I always, again, it's something I've started doing more recently. I always try to have sort of 2 different colours of plants, or just use 2 different plant swatches. And I try to sort of use them repeatedly on the build, because again, I've had it sometimes where I'll use like 10 different flowers, and then you come to look at it and you're like, oh, these really don't look like they would be growing next to one another. I've had that before where, for example, I've been so excited to get, say, the Island Living kit, that I'll be using all the new flowers and stuff, and, you know, it will be in a suburban neighbourhood like this, and you're sort of like, they look a little bit too wacky to be growing here. So yeah, so I feel like I'm sort of getting a bit better as a builder. You know, as always, I'll say that I by no means sort of back myself that much. You know, I think I'm I think I'm okay at it, but yeah. So hopefully you like what I do here as well. And yeah, so again, you can see there I've got the hedges going all the way along the side of the house, and I'm putting the bin there, like I said, you know, with the idea that sort of in real life you probably would have the bin out there, that side of the gate, ready to be wheeled out. And things like that, I almost wonder, I feel like maybe it's a bit of a lost cause to say, will they come to The Sims 4 now? But sometimes I almost wonder whether things like that, like I would love something like that in The Sims 5, where it's like, you know, on a Monday wheel the bins out and the bins get collected, and you know, maybe if you don't, you start to get flies hanging around. Like, I think things like that, it's so sort of it's such a tiny thing, but it would make such a difference with gameplay. And I don't know, that's sort of a big tangent to get onto, I suppose, of, you know, what is The Sims 5 going to be and when is it going to come. But yeah, I think things like for me personally, things like that are more important to me than vampires, werewolves, mermaids. Like, I never really play with any of that stuff. I didn't bother getting the werewolves kit. I did think it looked really good, but I just know, like, for me, 90% of what I do on The Sims is building, and I like, when I do play, I like to play realistically. I don't really sort of do all of that. And yeah, as much as it looked cool, like I didn't really see it as my kind of thing. But equally so, I know that some people love sort of that aspect of the game and maybe wouldn't do a generational family. They would have generations of vampires or a werewolf clan. So I don't know, it must be really hard for them to sort of juggle, you know, what gets released and when. But yeah, I don't know, for me, I want them to sort of bring it back to basics a little bit, but I don't know. And of course there's all these rumours about it being a multiplayer game, so it's really hard. I don't know what they're going to do. I just hope that whatever it is, it comes with toddlers, pools, and maybe even, fingers crossed, cars. Because of course that's something we're still waiting for in the game, and something I would love to have. I feel like they're hinting at it, so maybe soon. So yeah, you can see here that I've just done the flower beds that I mentioned, and I really like the way that this is all set out. Yeah, I just think it's really nice, and again, looks realistic, and I feel like it's just the perfect size for a little patio like this. Having those two little flower beds, it just fills the space a little bit, so it's not going to look sort of empty, if you like, but there's enough room to have everything else you want on the patio. So I think I put out a barbecue and a little like picnic bench, and yeah, I really, really like it. And I think, like, as I was recording this, as I said before, I recorded this actual footage a few weeks before I'm recording this voiceover now, and I feel like doing this build, it's when I sort of thought, yeah, I'm really enjoying doing this, and maybe when my passion for actually starting to record came from. Because for me, it's so nostalgic as well. Like, when I think about the amount of hours that I put into playing this game, and I actually said the other night, I said, oh, maybe I should see if there's a way in which I'll be able to record the old console game. Because at the moment, the way I record this, I'm just recording the screen from my PlayStation, and then obviously doing the voiceovers afterwards on my computer. So I was having a little look, and I think I might be able to do it. So I don't know, I love the idea of playing The Sims Bustin out again. That would be a real nostalgia trip. So yeah, and maybe even I'd see a few more builds I want to do. Like, I knew straight away I wanted to do Dudley and Mimi's house, but yeah, maybe there's a few more. So yeah, I might try and look into that. So you can see here, I'm finally onto the interior of the house. Again, this is one where I spent probably as much time doing the exterior as I did the interior, which is like a huge change for me. So yeah, so obviously, with this room we're in now, the classic items from Bustin Out, if you haven't played it, there was a stereo, a bar, and like a little seating area in the corner. And Mimi in Bustin Out had like these little sort of egg pod seats, I think. Like, maybe I'm recalling this wrong, I don't know. But yeah, so I don't think we have anything that sort of fit that sort of aesthetic when I built this. So I went for I was looking through sort of the round chairs, and yeah, I did debate the wicker chair because I thought it went quite nicely with this rug. But yeah, I changed my mind a few times. And again, with this rug, I actually believe it was a big flower rug in the original. But because of the shape of this and the colour, I just sort of, yeah, I wanted to go for this one. And from memory, I believe Mimi had a bookshelf as well. But I think the rest of this room was quite open plan from the original. So I do actually add a few bits to this room. From memory, obviously we'll get to it in a minute, but from memory, I definitely put a little table just by the front door there, because that space just felt a bit too big and open for me. And again, with builds, I like to make them quite realistic, and I think most houses probably have sort of a little table just by the door, just for any bits and bobs you might need to pick up at the last minute. And you can see I shifted the windows around a bit because I liked the idea that the TV wasn't sort of half over the window and half not. I don't know whether that's just a bit of I don't know, because obviously it's not symmetrical, but whether it's a bit of me just going, oh, I don't want half underneath the window. So yeah, I moved that over, and as you can see, this is the table I mentioned. So here, I remember sort of thinking, oh, I don't know what bookshelf to put in, because yeah, obviously I had this tiny little space in the corner there, but I just didn't know, I just didn't think it fit very well. And so yeah, I took a little bit of time on that. And yeah, and then I sort of thought, well, do I just put one on the wall? Would that look better? And to me, that looked a lot better than having one that was sort of standing from the floor. And yeah, again, just to fill that space, I was trying to figure out what to put under the window. And yeah, so I just duplicated that table at first. And I can't remember if I stick with that actually, because yeah, I wasn't sure. And I think maybe I just put a plant or something there. I don't quite remember, but yeah, I do recall sort of not being sure what to put there. And I almost feel as well like I didn't really want sort of all of the furniture in the room just to be around the outer wall of the room, if that makes sense. So yeah, I spent a little bit of time sort of umming and ahhing about that. So I actually can't remember what I put there in the end, so this is going to be news to me. Yeah, I do actually recall seeing that light and really liking it, and I think I used it in another build. And yeah, so again here, the doorways between the second bedroom and the bathroom, I remember there being a painting there, and I almost wonder whether it was quite an expensive painting that maybe was taken by Malcolm Landgraab at the beginning of the level. But yeah, something about that little bit of wall really stuck out in my mind. So yeah, again, I would love to go back and play this again. Just for little things like that, you know, like why would I remember that there was a painting in that specific place? I think it must have had something to do with the gameplay. So yeah, again, Mimi's house had a fairly basic bathroom. So I just wanted, I don't think this was the layout of it, but certainly the same items were used. It wasn't that big, but I just wanted her to have a bathtub, a toilet, and obviously like a sink. And I sort of wanted to use that little shower, is it called a shower caddy? Where you put all your shampoos and conditioners. I quite wanted to use that, and I thought it fit with the other bits that I was using in that room. So again, something I really clearly remember from this game is, well, I hope I'm remembering right. Again, I may have just made this up in my head, but I remember these sort of grand 4-poster beds. And again, I think this might be a reason why I loved playing this level so much when I was younger, because me as a child saw a sort of a grand bed and thought it looked like a princess bed, you know. So I knew straight away that I wanted to use these ones, which I believe are from City Living. And this room, see, where I said earlier about when you build the structure of the house first, it can get hard when you're furnishing it. So I started putting this furniture in here, and all of a sudden I went, oh no, I've made this room one tile smaller. So I spent a bit of time trying to figure out what I was going to do. So yeah, I use a few different elements, and you can see there I'm struggling with the curtains. Now, because of the pillowcases, although it's not a perfect match on colour, I did quite want to sort of bring in that orange. And I think part of it was because I've never ever used that curtain in the orange swatch before. I've used that curtain quite a lot, but never in that colour. And yeah, like I say, I know it's not a perfect match, but I just quite liked the idea that it's sort of trying to go with the cushion covers there, the pillow covers. And yeah, so like I say, it was a case of sort of trying to figure out where everything fit. And I'm doing my classic thing here where I'm going through the catalogue and then I'm like, oh, wait, I want to put that somewhere else, and quickly sort of dashing between rooms. But yeah, so I don't know. I think I end up using some of the little sort of baskets from, I believe it's Laundry Day, just to sort of put in that corner space there. And yeah, so this is where I'm getting distracted by other items. I think because I couldn't find what I wanted. So yeah, you can see there, it might actually be Eco Lifestyle. I'm not 100% sure what that one's from. But yeah, you can see I'm going through and I'm spotting things on the way through and going, oh no, I'll put that out. And I did for a while try and see if I could put, I don't know what you'd call it. It's almost like a little awning type gazebo-y thing from Island Living. And I tried to see if that could go over the table in the back garden. Because quite often when I do builds, I'll put a table out in the back garden and then I sort of go, oh, but what if it rains? Or like, you know, but I sort of feel like they probably wouldn't go and sit out there if it was raining anyway. So, or, you know, if you were playing with it, you wouldn't get them to anyway. So yeah, it just didn't quite work. So I gave up on that. And yeah, maybe this is where I used the light again, actually. I wasn't sure. Like I didn't really know how to fill that little space, but yeah, I was debating it. And then you can see there, I think I was like, oh no, I'll put a little lamp on one of the cabinets. And yeah, I was using a lot of like, again, I think this is like a memory coming back to me. I was using a lot of like the fern or like the sort of the succulents rather than flowers. And I was trying to remember, there's a mission on The Sims Bustin Out. I believe it's when you're at the Goth's house and you're living there. And you have to find out who stole their fern. And now I actually think that it was Dudley, and it ends up in Dudley's house at the back of his trailer. But I remember when I was younger just being like, no, I bet Mimi took it. Dudley would never take it. Because I just, in my mind, because he was a bit more goofy and Mimi was a bit more sort of mischievous and sometimes quite mean. I don't know. I feel like a part of my memory of it is sort of like, I don't know, like he was a lot nicer when actually they were probably both quite spoiled and not very nice at times. And yeah, so this was the bigger bedroom that I would always try and get in and claim as my own in the game. And you can see again that I've used this same bed, and I've sort of gone for more of a pink theme here because I decided to use one of the wardrobes from Get Together. I do like to use these wardrobes whenever I can, and because this is just a bit of a bigger room, I thought that it could fit the space a bit nicer. But again, then you're left with a little bit of a little sort of cubby hole that you've got to fill in the doorway. So I decided to just put a mirror and a chair there. And yeah, again, I think the reason why it came together quite quickly is because it was the second time building it. And obviously you're sort of duplicating items from both rooms. So we move on to the kitchen. Now, again, I remember the kitchen being quite big. And I feel like I have memories of red chairs. Now, this may have been just something that I added into the game when I played it. But I definitely decided that I wanted to include those in my rebuild. And these cabinets, they're not ones that I use personally quite often. But the sort of the theme of the kitchen, I feel like she had sort of almost like a range oven. I think it was like a really nice oven on The Sims Bustin Out. So I wanted to make sure she had quite a nice oven here. And I do remember the cabinets being sort of this kind of style, I think. So yeah, I definitely wanted to sort of do that sort of style. And then have the sort of island with the sink on it. And yeah, again, it came together really quickly and I was actually really happy with it. And yeah, like I would quite like to play this house as well. You know, it's the case that every time I build one of these, I go, oh, I might play a game there, and there's just not enough time in the day, to be honest. So yeah, so you can see here we're coming up to the last few minutes of the video now, and I'm looking through for these red chairs. I hope they were red chairs and it's not just something that I've sort of made up in my mind. But I was trying to work out whether we could get a sort of a bigger table in there, or whether we should just have the smaller one. And yeah, I wasn't really sure. It's a bit tight like this. And then I debated sort of putting it up against the island there, and I just decided it wasn't worth squeezing it in, to be honest. So I did opt for a smaller table in the end, and yeah, I mean, I think in my mind I was just thinking that it didn't really, like, that glass table, I think I was just sort of going, oh, it doesn't sort of fit the country kitchen aesthetic, but yeah, I like it. I don't think it had to be matchy. You know, it doesn't. The rest of the house doesn't really sort of. It's not a cohesive style, I don't think. You know, each room's quite different. So yeah, so now I'm just putting in all of the little sort of like the decorative bits. And something I decided that I wanted was you know, like the racks with the utensils here. Yeah, I decided I wanted to use that because very rarely do I build kitchens where I feel like that fits. So I definitely wanted to use that when I could, and I thought it just looked really nice over the island counter there. And here I yet again ended up putting my favourite new aprons. Now, I believe they were on the free update recently. I haven't put it in yet, but I can guarantee I'm going to. Yeah, they were a free update, and I think I've used them on every build since. I really like them, and like I've said before, I think the colour swatches of them are great. So yeah, I'm just putting the last few bits in, and I'm really happy with it. I think, yeah, they are the aprons, and yeah, I end up just shuffling them over there, and I really like the way that wall looks in the end with the pictures as well. Yeah, so like I say, I'm really happy with it. If you like this too, I have put it on the gallery, so all information about my EA ID is in the description. It is different from my YouTube name, so do check that out if you want to download it. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and I would absolutely love it if you could subscribe to the channel. We have lots of exciting things lined up, and hopefully lots more builds. And yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch, and hopefully I will catch you in the next one. Bye!